when times are hard. When the hard questions need to be asked and hardly answered in a very serious way. And when the immense hardness and difficulty of everyday harditude needs to be understood and repeated to you in excessively serious and earnest tones by predominantly white men with broad chins, perfect hair, and a penchant for sleazing all over their lesser-paid female colleagues, we are here. Radio Flange Goblet News. It's the newsiest news to ever harden in a news studio and be reported to you, the hardened and discerning viewer, sat at home incapable of comprehending the sheer magnitude of the hardness of everyday hardosity, and therefore need experienced news hounds like Gurky Monkfish, Harrand Bunkthirster, and Lenwald Whifflecharm Chincock to bring it to you straight, bring it to you powerful, and bring it to you very hard. Imagine a black and white montage. Here's some incredibly serious men in suits, handling pieces of paper on which some of the hardest words ever to grace the thick girth of a pure weave of pristine egg-white parchment are written. Here is one of those same men, wearing a flak jacket, miles away from any real danger, but reporting in loud and shouty and oh so very hard and pert ways from a war zone. Here's a female reporter. There's one that's probably a minority of some kind. They too are allowed in a modern news environment. In an adjacent studio to the newsroom. Well, it's just down a corridor actually, but they all share the same coffee machine in the living embodiment of perfect workplace culture. Under which there is definitely some absolutely despicable, misogynistic, and potentially hard secrets that we can expose at some later date to prove just how hard-hitting and with it we can all be once the true horror of our worthless personalities have been revealed. They're sharing morning coffee on a sofa with a celebutante of the day, asking them deep, hard, and thoroughly probing questions about picking out baby names and why being anything other than a size 2 shouldn't be a stigma in this new, caring, understanding world of today. Now back to the newsmen, hard men, bristling men. One of them is in a helicopter, the other one standing outside the Taj Mahal interviewing an amputee about cyberbullying and the incredible hard story that everyone can both relate to and be outraged enough by to share the Radio Flange Goblet hashtag hard news for hard times. This is the incredibly serious and hard news that isn't in any way shallower than a reality TV show about a glue-on eyelash salon in New Jersey ran by someone of indiscriminate gender who doesn't so much speak a language but makes high-pitched wailing noises and breaks a lot of furniture. It's the most newsiest news told in a way that's in no way pandering, exploitative, exaggerated, and fear-mongering without any intention of really selling you the dangerous narcotics posing as helpful drugs that our glorious advertising overlords want to keep telling you about every 9 minutes, that pays for all my hair gel and prostitutes. We're here for you, to keep you informed, to keep you on the edge of your seat, and to keep you just paranoid enough that you keep purchasing, ordering ice cream and handguns. This is the very true and utterly pulsatingly hard news, and it's getting harder and more condescending 1 inch at a time. News. And now it's the after-movie diner. Oh, yeah, entertainment.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Hello, I am John Cross, and I'm not at all currently sat in a big bowl of pudding. I am just coming to you right now to announce that on Friday, July 25th, the Friday probably after the day you're listening to this, is our 9th birthday. That's right, this podcast, 9 years ago, on July 25th of 2011, burst forth onto a crowded podcasting scene that showed nothing but indifference and despair with its first ever episode, which covered horrible bosses, Woody Allen, and that damn Evil Dead remake. My goodness, how times have changed. A Kevin Spacey movie, a discussion on Woody Allen, and remakes. Well, remakes are still here. Anyway, it was a different time 9 years ago, but I wanted to let you all know that really what you should be doing for our 9th birthday is go on then, send us an email. Send us an email at hello@aftermoviediner.com. 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 Send us a voicemail at 347-669-0053. That's 347-669-0053. Or if you're not in America and you want to leave us a voicemail and you don't want to make a phone call, you can always hop onto your laptop or computerized system and completely for free go over to speakpipe.com/aftermoviediner. That's speak as in what you do with your mouth, pipe as in what you lay in your bathroom, laying pipe. .com/aftermoviediner. Go over there and you can literally leave us a voicemail on your computer. Either that or go to aftermoviediner.com, go to the contact us page, and it's all listed out for you. My goodness, how convenient. It's almost like we're living in 2020 and things aren't completely terrible. I mean, things are completely terrible, but you can still contact us and wish us a happy birthday. Say what you like about the show. Say what you don't like about the show. Say that you wish this intro was much, much shorter, like I wish it was. Anyway, do that. It's the 9th birthday of the diner. Yay, excitement. 2020 gives us something to at least be happy about, kind of. Well, not really. Anyway, on with the bollocks. Yeah. In the immortal words of the lead singer of the Rembrandts, it has not been my day, my week, my month, or my year.
You're quoting the Friends theme tune.
I've decided to. Don't ask me why.
Have we reached? I feel like this is some kind of turning point in your existence.
It's a plateau.
Usually your impenetrable pop culture references. Are you actively trying to make the diner into a more palatable proposition for the American public at wide by throwing in Friends quotes?
Listen, if it works for HBO Max, my friend, let's see.
But does it though? Because if nobody watching HBO Max, isn't that a bit of a problem?
I think nobody is watching anything at this point. I mean, people are watching stuff like they're going on Netflix and binging stuff, but the thing that I've been hearing recently from a lot of people is that they're watching the same stuff. Like they're watching stuff that they know they like, and they're watching it over again, and they're not doing that thing where that people assume people do at times like this, where they're like, yeah, let's just try something crazy and watch, just something wild. No, people are going for comfort television, so they're going for
that's because they're all depressed, mate.
Yeah,
they're all depressed. So is that where we come in then? We're going to be the same old comfort podcast, moaning and complaining about things that people did 20 years ago.
Yeah, we are the yes, we are the comfortable, loose-fitting sweatpants of podcasting.
I think we're more like the stinky, sweatpants, like the day after they've been worn all day, like at the bottom of the laundry bin. And you walk in and you go, I haven't really got anything else, and I just got to go to the shops. I suppose I could put these on.
Yeah.
And you put them on, and you just, it's the only time you can feel stink.
Yeah.
When you put them on.
No, you're right. We are the, I suppose I'll put them on podcast.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, for the people who have been listening these last, I think it's 9 years.
Fuck off.
I think it's 9 years. I mean, not to you, but to me.
No, not to me.
I think it's 9 years.
I missed the good bit, like the beginning, when you threatened to be interesting and relevant.
Yeah.
And then I came in, and I kind of killed that dead. I basically killed your dreams. I'm your dream killer.
You are my dream killer, but that's okay because I'm comfortable in that killed dream space. That's where I thrive.
In the stinky sweatpants of dead dreams is where you've made your home.
Listen, no truer words I feel have been spoken. There's a deep part of my soul that relates very heavily to that.
Yeah, mine too. I think that's why it came out.
Yeah, it is marvelous, and I agree with you. This is wonderful. And so, how have you been, Chief? Have you been all right, or have you been splashing around in the quagmire?
Is this all part of the? Are we podcasting?
We're podcasting. Yeah, no, okay. You don't have to get like deeply personal. You don't have to be like, oh my god, but
yeah, the thing with my balls is back or whatever. Yeah.
You just made
all right. I'm only joking. The thing with my balls is not there.
The thing with your balls never left. I literally just spilled.
It's always with us.
I just spilled my drink all over me because you made me laugh.
Does this need to be an edit point?
No. I'll just deal with sticky hand for the whole thing. I'll just feel like James Spader has been over, made my handle sticky.
Yeah, licking your hand with his sherbet-coated tongue.
I think there was a Scandia sketch with me and your brother where the one of the lead conceits of the game show or the interview or whatever it was that someone was repeatedly licking his hand, and the guy kept saying, like, will you stop licking my hand? But what we had to do when recording it was so that the sound of licking was continuous. When we stopped doing our line, we had to make a licking noise. So it would be like, I'd be doing my line and John would be like, like that. And then when I went to do my line, he would have to take over the licking so that the licking was continuous throughout the whole sketch.
It was like a ballet.
It was
a ballet of comedy.
It was like a carefully crafted Cirque du Soleil.
That was back when you had dreams.
Of course, that was back when I had aspirations and
when you could be bothered to try and do something properly.
What, when I could be bothered to sustain a licking sound for 3 minutes?
I'm not saying it was a good thing to do properly, but you decided to do it.
Yeah.
With the tools you had at hand, which was you.
Yeah.
And that's what you went. You've got to admire that ambition, however misguided and irrelevant.
Yeah, I wonder if you and I could do a whole podcast where when I was talking, you were making a licking noise. When you were talking, I was making a licking noise. But we never commented on it. We just went through the whole podcast, and in the background there would just be like a sort of noise. And
think the trouble is that because we've grown beyond the slightly knackered JVC of audio recording, that people would go, I wonder why they didn't just do a licking noise. What do you call it? Loop it and then play it underneath in a separate track.
Well, where's the skill in that?
Well, there isn't any. But the more importantly, first of all, what would the point be, right? In the first place, if your point is, it would be kind of weird and uncomfortable, people wouldn't get it. That could just as easily be achieved.
Just by us talking.
Yeah. People are going, this weirdness, it's very real. It's very lo-fi.
Hipsters around the world would love it.
What authentic, pointless weirdness.
Hipsters would talk endlessly about us on Reddit like it was 1996.
Do hipsters still talk on Reddit?
Yeah, that's the only place they're allowed to talk now, because they've been banished off every other social media platform by the shrill voices of outrage, nonchalance, and insanity.
Haven't we all, mate?
Yes, indeed, and yet here we are.
We still talking bollocks.
The
only saving grace is that there's nobody important enough to listen and care and cancel us.
That's true. Well, I mean, what would you cancel us for? What is it that we've done?
I call women birds quite a lot. That feels like I might get cancelled for that.
Yeah.
You get cancelled for calling women birds?
I think that's low down on the cancel totem pole. I mean, I think there's probably many other cancelling notches. I'm probably even using the word totem pole at this point is a cancelable offence. They're probably like, well, actually, it's called a Native American, standing stick or something. Or they'll have some kind
I think referring to totem poles as Native American standing sticks is cancel worthy right there, I think.
Is it? So wait, that's cancel worthy, but calling it a totem pole. I mean, look.
I honestly don't know, mate.
Who can keep up with the hard and fast rules?
I'm just saying, if either one of us becomes important, right, in any way, woe betide the things we've said on this podcast. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the swearing, the sleazy spade of springtime's alone.
Yeah, but analyze what
just take the quotes out of context and go, he said this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Analyze the first sentence you said, though. The first sentence you said was, if either of us ever become important, I feel like that ship sailed.
Well, that's true.
I don't think that ship so much has sailed as someone put lots of Evinrude motors on it, yanked the motors as quickly as they could, and sped off across the bay. I don't think it's so much as sailed.
We walked up to the ship and we set it on fire, and then we stood there and watched it burn. And then we went, well, I guess I'll never be important then. No, I guess you won't.
No.
Because you burned that ship to ashes. Didn't sail, you burned it.
Right. Well, we probably burnt the ship, and probably while it was burning,
Speaking of burning the ship into ashes, should we talk about what people actually tuned in for before we metaphorically burn their ears, the ships of their ears, to the ashes of discontent and apathy.
Hello and welcome to the after Dennis Quaid movie not allowed in a diner anymore, and probably won't be now for at least 3 years because nobody can wear a bleed-in fucking mask, you fucking swine. Anyway, enough of all that. Tonight's film or today's film, or this morning's. I mean, I don't know why I say tonight because it's tonight right now, but you know what I mean. Anyway, that's just such.
I watched it at night. Last night.
That's such an old hackneyed thing to do on a podcast, is to be like, well, bro, I say tonight because I'm recording it tonight, but you could be listening to it at any point. I probably started 500 after movie diners with that, and I've only done 315 of them. Anyway, my guest this week is the same person you've heard over and over and over again for years.
Oh, I'm not him.
Yeah.
I hate him.
I hate him. Why can't you get Mo back on or something? Cancel him because he called me a bird once, and God forbid that's against my sensitive whatever. God, listen to us. I sound like my dad. Anyway,
that's where we're heading, mate. That is where we are heading.
That's where we're headed. And people are taking too much unemployment money. No, they're not really. They should have more. I'm all in favor of government handouts. I'm in favor of government handouts. I just gave the government money for taxes, so they can give some of that to other people. I'm all for that. So I'm not my dad. That's what I'm establishing. I'm not my dad. It's Jim Wallace. You know him. You love him. He's your cheeky English chappy. He's commenting on movies. He loves a bit of Dennis Quaid.
Speculating wildly. And he's very often wrong.
And he's got a bum face, and he's here. And we're talking about the Dennis Quaid 1997 Quaid movie, Switchback.
The Quaid Fest.
The Quaid Fest.
The Quaid Fest that proves once and for all, Dennis Quaid has no range.
No range.
He's rangeless.
Dennis Quaid, or as I like...
He introduced a range once at a party, and then he forgot their number, never called them back.
Yeah.
And he remained Dennis Quaid, sans range, from that point onwards.
But in this movie, he is around a mountain range. Oh. This movie, Switchback, from 1997, written and directed by Jeb Stewart. Switchback, which is available on Prime Video if you are in the US of A. I don't know if it's in the Prime Video anywhere else. Look it up yourself, you fucking lazy swine.
I mean, don't.
Oh, wow. Okay, Jim's already
saying, be honest?
Right off the back, don't. It is a cavalcade of character actors in this movie, along with Sir Quaidster and indeed Danny of the Glovesters. We also have Arlie Ermey, Walton Goggins, Ted Levine, William Fichtner, and Jared Leto. But it's a cavalcade of just that guys, and Dennis Quaid, and William Fichtner, and it's sort of a, well, I've got a theory. it's not so much as a whodunit movie as it is he can't have done it movie, but he did.
Yeah, but the important point I feel that this movie makes very, very clear is that motive is hugely overrated. Like, why do people need to do things? Doesn't really matter.
They don't.
It doesn't matter.
It's a serial killer
movie. It's not
movie.
important to the story.
It's a serial
why
killer
he
movie.
does the things that he does. It's not interesting.
No.
Doesn't even matter. What matters is that we have to spend as much of the movie as possible going, is it him? In a sort of half-interested way.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, I guess it's him.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
Well, that's what I mean, is it's not a whodunit. It's a, he can't have done it because, you know, everyone thinks he's swell or whatever. And, you know, they've are we just going to spoil it? Are we just going to spoil it? Or
I don't think it's spoilable. Like, as soon as he pulls the knife in the bar,
right,
in the like, that whole incredibly, I mean, let's not beat around the bush, right? It's just a catastrophically badly written movie. And that scene in the bar that happens for no fucking reason. When he pulls the knife on the bloke in the bathroom for no fucking reason, and goes back for no fucking reason, and helps Jared Leto out for no fucking reason. When he's got the knife like on his, you know, balls, on his balls, on his knob or whatever. It's like pretty apparent from then on that he's the killer. Because I was like, why are we following this bloke? It would be a Shaggy Dog kind of. It's like a Shaggy Dog serial killer movie. It's fucking weird and not good.
From Jeb Stewart, who is known for writing.
Is he? What did he write?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? Jeb Stewart has written Die Hard, Leviathan.
No, he adapted a book, and it was mostly polished by what's his face.
All right, I'm just telling you, his credits are Die Hard, Leviathan, Lock Up, Another 48 Hours, The Fugitive.
Another 48 Hours is shit.
Hang on, The Fugitive, Just Cause.
That's an adaptation. Just Cause. That's the Sean Connery one, right?
Yeah.
That's fucking abysmal. That was so bad.
Okay, and then Fire Down Below with Steven Seagal.
Also bad. So Die Hard was the fucking guy. What's his name? He ended up. Wasn't it Scott Burns? Scott Burns like polish Die Hard, and it's based off the book.
It's based off a Roderick Thorpe book, but no, Stephen D'Souza was the other writer.
D'Souza. He's the writer. D'Souza's the reason it's good. Stuart clearly knows how to adapt things because that was good. And
I love the way you say that with such certainty when they're both equally credited for the film.
Yeah, well, they would be, but they didn't write it together. But either way, I'm not arguing that Jeb Stewart knows how to adapt things because Die Hard was good.
And let's not forget that Stephen D'Souza also wrote Hudson Hawk.
Okay, well, fair enough. But what's the other?
And Beverly Hills Cop 3, and Street Fighter, and Judge Dredd, the Stallone one, and Knockoff, the one where Jean-Claude Van Damme and Rob Schneider run around Japan in like a weird... There's some evil people in the fashion industry in Japan movie. Yeah.
Well, what was the other book that Stewart did, though? There was another book in there.
What do you mean?
Well, there was like a couple of good movies, and both of them were adaptations. Die Hard and something else.
I love how you're clutching at the, adapt.
Everything on that, every movie on that list is balls, except for two movies that are adaptations of books, which suggests to me that he knows how to adapt something, which means you have a plot and you have characters.
Well, there was The Fugitive.
Taking those things and turn them into a movie.
All right.
Give him a blank piece of paper, and all he does is rub shit all over it and charge you money to watch it.
Wow. Okay. Someone did not like Switchback in any way at all.
It was just so pointlessly bad.
Right.
Why did he do any of it? Why did Danny Glover do anything in that movie? Why?
We can get into that, but there's
no answer.
There is an answer.
There's not an answer.
There is, because
you're gonna blind me with
Just Cause. Just Cause was based on the novel by John.
Just Cause was shit on
Katzenbach. So there goes that. Fucking adapting is easy, but whatever.
I didn't say adapting was easy. I said it was different.
Okay. The Fugitive is based on...
That's an adaptation, because that was the TV show.
Right, but the movie bears little to no resemblance to the TV show.
It doesn't matter. If you've got a plot and a character,
right, okay.
and a reason for doing the things you're doing, right? Then you've already got a better fucking film than this. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's different. Working with a blank sheet of paper means you need characters, you need why is it happening, and what am I trying to say? Adaptation is, look, this is good. We need to do a movie. Okay. I'm not saying that's a very difficult skill. Clearly, James Stewart is a man that can get the job done. If I need anything adapted, I will be calling up the steward. I will not be calling up the steward to give him any money at all ever to write anything on a blank piece of paper. Because it will only ruin the cultural discourse. It will only make us all poorer morally, mentally, and spiritually if we do that.
Are you quite finished?
I think so.
Okay. So it's... Okay. So we all know where Jim stands on Jeb Stewart.
Do you know, very quickly, because this is kind of interesting, actually. It's kind of interesting, right? I think I saw this movie start to finish, right? But I can't remember. This is how bland the movie is. I can't actually remember whether I saw it or not. Now, that would be fine if I saw it like 10 years ago, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure I saw this last year. I think, but I can't remember. It's actively tried to like unpick itself from like the memories in my brain.
Right.
So that my brain doesn't actually have to remember what it was that I saw. But I am almost certain.
Much like my brain, I hope my brain will do after this conversation. And much like the listeners are now regretting ever pressing play.
Well, what the fuck did they expect? We were going to be like, what? The thing about Switchback is...
No.
Explain Blur. Reminds me very much of the Blur tradition of Blur.
You've put me in the weird position.
If you've tuned in to hear some random bloke talk comments about movies, I fail to see how I've let them down in that capacity.
No, you haven't let them down. You are just able to summon a level of passion and vitriol for a movie.
I get so little free time. Yeah. You know what I mean, I'm actively angry at Jeb Stewart for stealing the small amount of free time I got last night and setting it on fire with his complete inability to do anything well.
Right.
But adapt things, apparently. All right, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And talk to me about why you think this isn't a load of old rubbish.
It's not that I don't think it's a load of old rubbish. It's that I can't possibly muster that level of passion and vitriol against this film. Did I always understand what was going on? No. Was I mostly bored throughout watching it? Yes. But was I at any point really angry that we'd picked it?
No. I'm only angry now.
It was sort of. It's not
totally without merit, right? Is it? It's not totally without merit. Did you find yourself, by the way, and I'll ask you this question and then you can talk for a bit if you like, if you want. I know it's your podcast, but I will let you talk for a bit. What I'm wondering is, did you secretly wish, right near the beginning, when they were in the motel room, when they were in the motel room, did you secretly wish, I really wish this was a movie about Arlie Emery, is that how you pronounce it?
Arlie Ermy.
Arlie Ermy. And Ted Levine, like, investigating a crime.
Yes,
they
of
were
course.
So cool.
Yes, of course. So that was one of my points, was that Arlie Ermy made this entirely watchable.
And Levine, and I'm normally a bit like, meh about Levine, but he was really good too. They worked really well together, I thought. They were a good double act.
Yeah, I liked as I said, the cacophony of character actors bumbling around in the background. I agree with you. It's mostly awful, right? It's very shiny, polished, and Hollywood. It has some fairly pleasing stunts at some point. Quaid is basically doing his poor man's Harrison Ford routine. Because he's like the poor man. Like, if Harrison Ford is at a grumble level of
that's true. I never thought of it like that.
Quaid is at the grumble level of like the whole movie. Everyone apart from Ali Ermy, I was like, speak up! Like, everyone was super mumbly. And then, of course, the moment the action started, it was like, bah, 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 and I was like, all right, now I have to turn the fucking volume down. That was irritating enough. But no, Ali Ermy is amazing. He has this ridiculously enormous cowboy hat, the most phenomenal mustache you've ever seen. Spends most of the movie wearing a great V-neck mauve sweater vest and an awesome Texan sports coat, which is sort of it's like a normal jacket, like a normal regular jacket, but it has that Western V over the shoulder. I can't really describe it, but they're fucking cool, and he looks like the cat's meow in it. He looks amazing. And he just he is the linchpin of the whole film. Without him, everything else is pretty much awful.
He's the only one with any kind of a journey. I like the whole idea of it taking place on election day and him having to make this choice between do I want to be elected or do I want to do the right thing. It's that's all really interesting, and he's got a really interesting character. It's just for some reason. And it's, by the way, it's not that Danny Glover's bad. Actually, he's really good. And I'm not always the biggest fan of Glover. He's a bit I guess we'll get Danny Glover. But he's actually really good in it. And him being affable and likable and then kind of turning to kind of menacing and a bit odd. Actually, he does that really quite well. And he does go from in that scene with the bird, forgive me, in the in the
woman,
shop.
Jim, woman, just flop it. Just swap it for woman.
The woman in the shop.
Yeah.
He does go from being affable and likable to being quite kind of menacing and a bit scary, and without overdoing that at all. Just by it was just it was pretty good. It's just there was no reason for him to do any of it, so he was a bit beached. And Quaid was well, I normally do kind of lovable rakes, and occasionally the lovable rakes are, if anything, it would have been a better movie if they'd swapped. If Glover had been the FBI dogged agent doing the right thing, and Quaid had been the affable but slightly, I still wouldn't have been very good. But I think Quaid was just a vacuum of anything in the movie. He's so fucking boring, whereas I feel I could have watched Glover do that role.
Right, but but again, I will go back to saying it. This movie is not a whodunit. It can't have been him. And the reason why they cast Glover is because he has, basically spent his entire life playing, earnest, decent, positive representations of humanity. And it's like when towards the end of his career, a movie career anyway, Robin Williams did a few, it's Robin Williams doing a dark movie the 1 Hour Photo and ones like that. It's you don't expect someone that's usually the clown to be all dark and mysterious. And Glover was put in the role because Jeb Stewart, the idea behind this, right, is you make a Hollywood serial killer in which most people have decided who the serial killer is, like you say, in the opening scenes that particular actor is in. And then the rest of the movie does its damned hardest, or as far as Stewart is concerned, it does. I don't think it does, but as far as Stewart does, to make you second guess yourself the whole way along. And he thinks that is a winning twist on the serial killer formula. He is just sat there being I have this idea where you're I'm sure it's him. And then for the rest of the movie, I go, but is it? But is it? But is it? Oh, no, but it is. It is. And his reason for doing it the whole time, the reason for the serial killer to be doing it is because he took a liking to Quaid and wanted a game of cat and mouse. And Quaid broke the rules or whatever. But I would argue one thing with you. I would argue one main thing with you. I understand why you're saying the motives aren't important and why motives make a good plot and storyline and da-da-da-da-da. And usually I would agree with you. And again, I'm not singing this movie's praises, but I would say that both in real life and in Hollywood serial killer movies, the motive for the serial killer is the least interesting and the least relevant thing. So Stewart has decided to just kind of scrap it. Because, what motive would have really in any way made this movie any better?
It's not that. But you're right. It's just that I guess I have a problem I suppose. And it is, and maybe it is just me. And I don't mean like, well, it's only me and the whole one. I mean, in this conversation, maybe it's just me, but I have a problem with things that I can't buy, that I can't believe. And I didn't believe for a minute that Glover was a serial killer, even though I knew he was the serial killer. Do you know what I mean? Like, there wasn't anything about him, all the things that he did, that made me believe for a minute that he was anything other than just a plot device. And his performance was good. It wasn't like that he was a bad performer. It's just his presence in the movie is serving the purpose that you're saying, which is fine, but that's all it did.
Right.
And like, I'm not disagreeing with you, and you and I do tend to have a thing where we experience movies differently, and that's fine. I tend to get more annoyed by things that aren't believable, and you tend to get more annoyed by wasting opportunities and
this, by the way, this movie
which is like both of those things.
This movie definitely wastes opportunities, hands down.
I was annoyed by it because I like Quaid. I mean, now we know he can only be Dennis Quaid, and that's fine.
Right, but you go into a Dennis Quaid movie expecting Dennis Quaid. Like, if I went into a Dennis Quaid movie and suddenly I got someone else, that would probably throw me quite a lot, because I'd be like, is Quaid attempting to act? Because that's disappointing.
Yeah, but that's and the trouble with too is that sometimes you look back at a movie that at the time what it's doing is like it's making like the easy choices in order to like get you through the to get you through the film, and that's fine. But in this case, it was full of a bunch of like really what I'm sure were fine at the time, but now are really hoary old cliches, like the stand aside, I'm a doctor, and the cutting open the throat with a knife and putting a straw in it. Go, and people are like, I've never seen the like. What a you must be a doctor. Go, I've seen that 1 billion times on 1 billion TV shows now. That's rubbish. And
right, but that was
you changed the game, man. Like it was a competition between serial killers don't think like that. Only serial killers in movies talk. Like, oh, it's a game, man.
Right.
You change the rules and all that fucking bullshit. And how is like kidnapping his son, like evening the because if his purpose was to get Quaid off the case, like they say earlier when the sheriff and Quaid are talking, right? Kidnapping his kid or killing his kid would be easy. But he kidnaps his kid to like level the playing field. I don't know.
No, he kidnaps his kid to get him back in the game.
No, he was in the game.
No. He kidnaps his kid because initially they were hunting him, right? He was hunting the serial killer. Quaid was hunting the serial killer, right? Hunt. Dennis Quaid, serial killer. Hunt. Then when the serial killer like started killing more people or going across state lines or whatever it was, 5,000 agents. Like at one point the serial killer says, but then it was like 500 agents like hunting me, right? Like the whole FBI started to come, and then there was police coming down on him and da. Right? And Quaid kind of got lost in the throng of all these other agents who were hunting. And the serial killer was like, how do I get Quaid back laser focused on me? I'll kidnap his kid.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's fine. It's bollocks. I don't care about any of it.
No, but you're not right. Okay, but again, and this is hang on a second. This is very admirable. This is very admirable of you, and it's definitely a writer's mind that demands certain things of a late to the game 1990s thriller, right? So what I mean by that is one of the things that defines one of the maybe B genres, like it's maybe not an A genre, although there are a couple of A examples of it, but the B genre of the 90s, one of them, along with action films, was the serial killer / erotic thriller / thriller movie, right? 90s thrillers, that was a thing, right? So this is a very kind of late to the game version of that. It comes after Silence of the Lambs, and I think it comes after Seven, right? When was Seven? Seven is in 95, right? So it's a late to the game 90s serial killer thriller from the formerly potentially great writer of Die Hard and The Fugitive, who's now fallen on hard times and is scripting Steven Seagal films. And so he decides, well, you know, serial killers, what can I do that's the sort of a fresh twist on it? And his idea, as I formerly stated, is like not a whodunit, but a can't possibly be him kind of movie. And yeah, it mostly falls flat on its face, and the box office reflected that. It was made for $38 million and only grossed $6 million. So, you know, it was certainly a flop. It's also one of those things where it's like with Ali Ermey, Quaid, Glover, and upcomers like Walton Goggins and Jared Leto, how is it that no one's ever heard of this movie? Well, the reason why no one's ever heard of this movie, it's not particularly good, right? And so yeah, it's definitely all of those things. I can't possibly muster the level of anger you can towards it, but that's very admirable because of the writer's mind and everything I've described.
I still think it's more to do with having my free time stop.
In terms of
you're right, and there was enough in it that was kind of like but there were little bits in it that just as it started to go, well, at least there's a climax on a train, but then it's like 218. The clue is in 218. And then he gets on the 218 train, right? And the bloke goes, yeah, this is 218 train. Oh, but we're going to stop here for the night. Oh, you're not going to it? No. Well, what's that train? Oh, that's the 210.
No, 220. 220.
So then he like runs up and he goes through all the fucking business and jumps on the train. And that's where there's going to be like, he set the trap or whatever.
Right.
The trap that he set with the 218 and the come to believe and all that bollocks. But like it wasn't even on the train. Like, why change I just don't understand. Why change the train? Did I miss something? Why?
No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that.
And then it's like, but I'm going to be on the 220. If I was Dennis Quaid and I'd actually figured out his puzzle, I'd be really pissed that he was on a different train. Like, what the fuck?
I'm with you on that, right? Because the entire serial killer is going to lure me to him thing is entirely dependent on a dude that just also happens to be on the 218 train who has like a book that lists railway sightings, right? Had that dude with the thermos not been on the 218, like Quaid would have just sat there. Like
going, what? I'm on the right train. I'm sure the serial killer will be along with his cunning denouement any minute now.
Right. So there is that. There's also the fact that Ali Ermey, who is the sheriff, who breaks protocol and obstructs justice by... We haven't really gone into it, but basically Quaid, very quickly...
sorry.
Quaid is an FBI agent on the trail of a serial killer. The serial killer kidnaps his son, we find out later. He rocks up in this small town where Ali Ermey is the sheriff, and he is being challenged for the sheriffship by William Fickner. Meanwhile, we then find out another twist that Dennis Quaid is actually has been suspended from the FBI, and the FBI is hot on Quaid's tail. Quaid tells his tale of woe and missing sons and mysterious notes with the number 218 and believe written on it to Ali Ermey, who's like, I believe you, and I will put everything on the line to see that you get to your son. And thus starts a chase through the mountains of... They keep talking about Texas, but it's Colorado. So I'm completely confused by that as well, but it doesn't matter because Texas and Colorado are like hundreds of miles apart. I know they also like back onto each other, but they're also hundreds of miles. Like from Amarillo to... Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. Anyway, also Ali Ermey seems to be in like Texas, Colorado, and then at the end in California, just wandering around being like, I'm a cop from Texas. All right, fine. You have jurisdiction for these 10 minutes of plot need, you know. But no, anyway, so they're running around the mountains of Colorado. Meanwhile, we get to meet Danny Glover and Jared Leto, who are in a big car, the interior of which, for no apparent reason, is entirely covered with naked women from porn magazines. Again, that takes up far too much of the movie, right? The reason why it's in the movie is Jeb Stewart is like, what's a weird thing that if it gets announced over the TV later in the movie, everyone will remember? Okay, the car has lots of naked women in it. However, it could equally have just been a big orange car. Like, it equally could have been like anything that was normal instead of a car where someone had sticky back plastic, nude women all over it.
It's supposed to be, you think Glover is like a weirdo because of all the women pictures. And then you're supposed to be like, oh, no, he's just borrowing it from a friend. He's a decent old stick, really. After he rescues Jared from the bar that he told. But like again, that anyway, it doesn't really work. But it's fine.
Doesn't matter. So anyway,
it is. But the trouble is, actually, what backfires is that it never stops being creepy. Like that beginning never stops being creepy. Even though Glover's like, well, it's not my car, I just nicked it off somebody, or I bought it off some guy, or whatever the story is.
Yeah.
And it's still never like, yeah, but it's still like weird and creepy, and it kind of casts a pall over the whole thing.
But anyway, so to get towards the end again, so Ali Ermey is put in prison by the FBI and William Fichtner for obstructing justice on the last day of his sheriffship. And while in prison, finds out that Quaid is running about the mountains trying to get to a train or whatever, because Ted Levine tells him. And he says to William Fichtner, you have to let me out because it's a trap. Like, Quaid's about to run into a trap. But he's not about to run into a trap. He's about to do exactly what he needs to do in order to find his son. Like, it's... The ending is so utterly convoluted. Like, it's convoluted on top of convoluted on top of convoluted. It's as if...
Yeah, it is. It's even convoluted to the point where Dennis Quaid is chasing a train. Chasing. It's a long train. Yeah. Chasing. Goes off into the water.
Yeah.
And, like, passes out. And then he wakes up, right? And clambers out of the car, like, and climb. In fact, we, like, pan across, like, a long bit of snow. So time has passed.
Yeah.
Right? And then he looks up, train's coming the other way.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of a train is this?
Yeah, it's a magic train.
Over here. But then a bit later...
It's not even the train, though. It's not even the train, though.
It's not?
That's the 218, and he needs to be on the 220. Something which was never mentioned.
It goes to all that, and then it is. It is a great steaming pile of bollocks.
And he's like, oh, well, this mountain, mate. No, this mountain's got two trains. Oh, two trains, you say? Two trains, you say? And what number train is this? Oh, this is the 218. Wow, this is where I want to be then.
That's where I want to be. He was very clear about that. He even circled it in red at the last murder site.
No, but this doesn't go to Believe. What's Believe again? That's a railway siding. Are we meant to care? Apparently. Okay, fine.
So the Believe part of the note is more important than the 218 part of the note. Yeah, you have. That is the case.
Yeah. But then also, the other part of the plot revolves around Danny Glover having to have Jared Leto like by his side the whole time, yet he leaves Jared Leto in the hotel after Jared Leto thinks he's the killer, leaves him, and Jared Leto has to come back down and kind of say to him like, can we be friends again? So like if Jared Leto doesn't do that, like what's his fallback plan? Like, I mean, all of it is just like once you start delving into it, it's all irrelevant wank. However, you could equally do that to Silence of the Lambs, which is also utterly convoluted and a high-performing wank. But everyone loves that movie. So,
see, I have to disagree with you there for a number of reasons, right? Because I really, really like Silence of the Lambs, and I really, really like Hannibal, the TV show. I'm not a big fan of the sequel, although the plot, what happens in the
scene where Hannibal escapes in Silence of the Lambs and gets down and gets into the ambulance by wearing someone else's face and has time to like strap someone up on the bars and everything else. It's high performing, glossy, convoluted, magic trick wank. It's enjoyable. It's awesome. It's done in a movie way where you're like, bam, 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 I'm in a movie and it's great. But like peel away any of the edges of any of these serial killer movies and they're all wank. But so while I agree with you, Switchback is particularly wank, to really poke holes in Switchback because it's a bit convoluted kind of doesn't really hold muster when you start like the whole Seven thing, like where he's like, he wanted us to come into this room on exactly this day and discover exactly this thing and blah, blah, blah. Like, all right. You know what I mean? Like it's all a bit whatever.
No, I have to disagree with you because I it's okay not to like serial killer movies, right? And I believe me, I can understand.
I love serial killer movies. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is us routinely battering Switchback about for being.
But there is a big difference, right? And what I would argue is it's about doing the work, right? Which is you're trying to get, and you know this better than anybody.
It's about pacing. It's simply about pacing. Stop talking about it. It's simply about pacing.
Is what?
It's about pacing.
No. That's not. No, that's what I'm disagreeing with. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about like the art of the actual filmmaking, which I wouldn't disagree with you. I think you're right that you can ruin a lot and cover a lot by how it gets filmed and how you put it together. I think that's very true. But what I'm saying specifically about Switchback, and I'm not saying like this is why Switchback is worse than anything else or anything like that. I'm just saying in this example, there's the thing where you go, well, I want this this like story beat to happen, right? Which is, he needs to lure him into a trap and it needs to be convoluted. Like that's what I'm aiming for. And so you either like do the work, right? Which is hard fucking work to write something that, whether it is like at heart, like it's, twisty turny bollocks, but it all has to make sense and fit together and arrive at the place you need it to arrive to so that it does all make sense. That's why the scene in 7 at the end is so effective. Not because obviously it's like, well, why, but because if you take everything that's happening at face value, like if you buy into like the world of the movie and what the guy's trying to do, then all the things that lead up to that point do make sense and they stack up and they add up together to get to this climax, which is why it's satisfying, right? It might all be at heart like, manipulative serial killer bollocks. I don't disagree with that, but it makes sense.
No, but also the
same thing with Silence of the Lambs. Like the guy who does the killings, the reason for him doing it and why it all like adds up and why like how Lecter is like some weird go-between this like new agent and like fresh-faced agent and like the depth of not like depravity exactly, but like what being a human being can sometimes do to you, right? As a psychologist, albeit an insane one, is interesting in its own way if you choose to be interested by that, and how it all fits together and how it all comes together in the end, and how they all have their own, each character, Lecter, Starling, and
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, have their own stories throughout the film, and they have their own motives and they have their own reasons, and they are within the world of the film three-dimensional, characters with like things they want and ways they act. But Switchback is different because the things that the guy does, like the 218 train and the Believe sighting, like they could be good endpoints if you do the work to get them there. Like why 218 has some significance, either the train or the number. Why Believe, why a railway sighting has some like meaning or something, but something where these things being an endpoint, which is, it's a tricksy trap and it all makes sense in the end. That feeling that the audience gets, he's just jumped to the end bit and there's no work underneath it. So you don't get that same feeling of having been brought there and even if it's been manipulated and all the rest of it, that's fine. All, film, if it's like entertaining stuff like this, is to some degree manipulation. But if it's just empty, then in my opinion, it's just lazy and you haven't bothered to do the work to take people, to give them that endpoint. You just slap the endpoint in because you're a good enough writer to know what the endpoint should be. And not working enough to fucking do the work that gets people there.
My only major disagreement is my only major disagreement is that it's not all about the filmmaking. I think it's all about the filmmaking, meaning that there are good magicians and bad magicians, and Jeb Stewart is definitely a bad magician, right? And the worst thing about Switchback is that from the moment you read the note that says, you have to kill me to find your son, and then there's the scene where Danny Glover tells Jared Leto, I have a son, and he's at this address in the house, and da-da-da-da-da, right? It is so fucking signposted, and so hitting you over the head, and so bluntly done, and so badly done, that by the time you get to the end, and it's revealed what you always knew would be revealed, which is that Glover would die and Leto would, like, tell him, like, where his son is, right? When you get to that scene, like, there's no big payoff, right? There's no big thing. Whereas the whole thing with 7 is, yes, there's two things going for the end of 7, right? And it's that the last act of Brad Pitt will succeed in that will succeed the last two deadly sins, right? So that's like a neat little thing. Like that's a neat little, oh, that's a fun little magic trick moment, right? And then anything that is signposting what's in the box at the end of 7 is so glazed over and glanced over and kind of casually sprinkled throughout the movie without anyone ever shining a flashlight on it, that when it comes to the end, your brain has to do the thing of going, oh yeah, because of the thing with the dirt. Like your brain has to like do something. At the end of Switchback, your brain doesn't have to do anything because you've been given all the pieces repeatedly, right? So yes, that is a product of the writing, but it's also a product of the filmmaking, because if there was better pacing, if there was less signposting, and if, like you say, from the writing perspective, you're right, if any of these things, like 218 or whatever, even had like the slightest little little reveal to them, then yeah, it would be nicer and it would be more satisfying and there would be more of an aha, whatever. And all I'm saying is that at their core, all of these movies are pretty much the same. The ones that are more successful because of pacing and acting more than they are successful because of the script. If you gave the script to Silence of the Lambs to Jeb Stewart to direct, we would be talking about it now in the way that we're talking about Switchback.
See, I disagree with you. And the reason I disagree with you is, and by the way, the part that I disagree with you is specifically about the writing part, because you're right. The script is... The trouble with any screenplay is that without a good director and good acting, it's shit. It might as well be fucking nothing, right? And it won't work. But equally... yeah, if you get a really good filmmaker and really good performances and a bit of a shitty script, you'll still end up with an entertaining movie because a filmmaker knows how to, like you're saying, how to pace it, how to cut around it, how to get to where you need to get to, who really gives a shit, throw a couple of lines in there. Maybe even the actors can improvise some stuff just to give it a bit of extra spark. I don't disagree with any of that. However, I'm just saying this, like, from a writer's perspective, now not a particularly successful writer's perspective, but from the perspective of somebody who is friends and has talked extensively about the art of writing with a successful writer. So I'm not talking about me, but I am friends with a very successful writer. And in the process of trying to become a writer, I talked with him endlessly about the process of putting things together. So I will tell you this, right, for nothing. Even a film like Silence of the Lambs, right, or any kind of, or Seven, or any kind of movie like that, the actor putting it together and making things make sense and making the characters' motives result in actions that tie together in a way that leads to a satisfying experience, not just in terms of what you see and the pacing and all the rest of it, but the actual meaning of what is happening, the believability of what is happening. It's really, really hard work to do that. And it's not about something that if you gave it to a shit director, it would be ruined. It wouldn't be. I mean, maybe it'd be ruined because it might be like really flat and really boring and really slow or whatever. But for a movie like Seven or Silence of the Lambs to really succeed in the way that they did, like they hit people in the cultural, in the bollocks, like in the cultural bollocks. Silence of the Lambs like kicked off a whole style of movie, TV show that like are still being made today, and Seven, like for the longest time, if it wasn't like dark and rainy and fucking broody, people weren't interested. Like they made like everybody's career involved in those movies. Like Hopkins was like nothing really up to that point. Yes, he'd done a lot of movies, but he wasn't like a fucking superstar. Jodie Foster, like they made all of them. Yeah, right.
By the way, before you go on, because I think your take is. I'm not saying, right. I'm not saying that writing isn't important. I'm also not saying that writing isn't hard. And I'm also not saying that the more successful films are the ones that have a better script. They just are. I'm not saying any of those things. It's at this point that we kind of go just round and round and round and round and round the houses with the same kind of thing. And Jim got quite passionate, and I got all tired and stressed out. And it was what it was, and it was wonderful and beautiful in its own wonderful, friendly way. But it didn't belong on the podcast. So enough of all that, Tosh. We rejoined the conversation some minutes later, quite a few minutes later, where we've kind of decided to just go back talking about Switchback and wrapping up the show. So there we go. Off we go again.
What happens then, when I'm especially being passionate about whatever the hell it is, your often reaction to it, which is perfectly understandable, is, I don't know what show you think this is, but I am not Melvin Bragg. And honestly, you've been talking for 10 minutes now about whatever the fuck you're talking about, because it's not really making a whole lot of sense. I just need to remind you that before you started talking, we were making fun of Dennis Quaid. Like, that's the level we were at before this started happening. Yeah. And because I'm in this like free-flowing artistic thing, when you try and steer me away from it, if you do it with anything other than like monumental precision and grace, it puts my back up. And when my back, I mean, like, we've had enough. It hasn't happened all that many times. But I
put my back up as well, and I said some things I didn't mean.
No, but let's think back. How many times can you remember, like, in the history of the podcast, where for some reason that you can't quite figure out, I'm sitting there in total silence with a real pissed expression on my face?
Quite a lot.
Right. So that's what happens. I'm like, about whatever. And then you go, yeah, all right. Like, we're talking about Dennis Quaid's underpants here. Let's just, like, keep it real.
Yeah.
And then I get like, and it puts my back up. So I sit there with a face like
I don't ever want to put your back up. That's
no. But I'm just saying,
that's not my raison d'etre.
It puts my back up. So I sit there with a face like a slapped ass before I remember, oh, yeah, this is a podcast about Dennis Quaid's underpants. What the fuck are you talking about? And then I get back into it.
We didn't see Dennis Quaid's underpants in Switchback, which I feel like was
that might have made it a bit better.
We did have to weirdly see a bunch of like chubby Coloradans or whatever you call them running downstairs in a boarding house in just towels.
In the towels.
And I couldn't help but wish that Paul Bellini had been one of them. That's what I wanted. I wanted Bellini to show up in a towel in a boarding house in Colorado.
The only thing I wanted from this movie was for Emery and Ted Levine to get their own movie.
Yeah.
Solving crimes in a small... Because when that happened, it's like a small town, weird crime, inexplicable. These two guys solving them. There's an election on that day. Like, that whole thing of, like, if you're going to do movie remakes, like, pick a story that never got told properly. That's the one that would be a good one.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
With Quaid and Glover, and instead it's like a murder mystery in this town on the election day. Like, that whole movie, minus the Glover and Quaid plot.
And I have a question for you on this, because I often find myself... I'm a big, as you know, Jim, I'm a big like detective thriller fan. I'm a big fan of the old like twisty turny whodunit plots, right? And because I think it's also because the one of the quintessential differences between English television and American television for the longest time, maybe not now, but for the longest time was this, and it was that every Saturday night there would be a Morse or a Lewis or a Miss Marple or a Sherlock Holmes or a Cracker or a Prime Suspect or one of those, which was like a movie-length thing.
Yeah, when you list them out like that, right, over the course of our chat, those are extraordinarily good shows.
Right, Tagger and, later on Midsummer Murders and whatever, but like, and Jonathan Creek and stuff like that. But there was tons of them, right? I mean... Britain like pumps these things out, which is kind of incredible because essentially they make 4 to 5 full movies a year, which essentially become 4 to 5 quote unquote episodes, but really
they don't fall back on you. Even though American you get 26 hours or something, or like 21.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. So the difference is the American has the procedural, right? You're 45 minutes every week, bang, it's done. They solve the crime,
same
get the
beats
killer.
Every time, same characters. Like, it's comforting that way. Whereas there is generally like the comfort in the English ones is the atmosphere and the characters, but not the mystery or the beats necessarily.
Right. So, for example, like Kim and I love to watch old Law and Orders and also especially SVUs, and we watch.
How you can watch that?
Oh, well, because they're utterly ludicrous, but kind of wonderfully formulaic and totally comfort cozy television for us. It's like I don't know. I guess other people watch like America's Got Talent and find that
I like Law and Order.
weirdly.
And I like Law and Order Criminal Intent. I can't get with sex crimes being cozy. I just can't do it.
No, I do understand where you're coming from with that. I do. No, that's a really good point. but there are some that are like joyously bonkers. There was one the other night.
I get. By the way, I do get it because on Peacock, like all anybody watches is Law and Order SVU. Like it just beats everything else into the ground.
Right. So, but the quintessential difference between the Americans and the British were like 45 minutes, wham, bam, done. Give me a killer. Give me a twist in the tail. Give me I'm putting the law on trial, and then dung dung, and then the thing. Right. 45 minutes. Whereas with, by the way, like 12 minutes of commercials in that 45 minutes. So really, it's only like 32 minutes.
Hey, do you like shows about sex crimes? What about this soda? Hungry? What about pizza?
The best example of that I ever saw was during The Walking Dead, where they had one of the most grotesque, like stomach eating sequences that they were allowed to put on television. And the very next thing that came on was a KFC advert, like having
worked for that company, I can tell you that caused a bit of trouble.
Oh, you remember that particular thing? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a bit of trouble, that did.
That was one of my favorite things ever. I loved it. I immediately wanted chicken. But that says something about me. But with English detective things, right? Like I say, they were like 2 hours long. There was enough, each week or each year they would do 4 or 5 of them. And each week for the 4 or 5 ones, you would learn a bit more about the character, but the character was also very kind of like set in stone. And maybe the character came up against some adversity, or maybe like for one of the episodes, the character himself was like accused of the murder, even though it clearly wasn't him, and so on and so forth. Like maybe there was some adversity, but ultimately the character just kind of continued being kind of cozy and fulfilling his purpose or her purpose.
But they were three-dimensional, because you can't really describe any characters in Law and Order as having they maybe like 1.5 dimensions.
No, 1.5 dimensions. But whereas someone like, you're right, like someone like Inspector Morse has layers. He has layers. Normally an old raincoat, then a cardigan, then a shirt. That's the layers. But the layers.
Talking about my penis.
the layers are there, right? So, and the plots, right, were normally in the vein of Agatha Christie, in the sense that in the first act you lay out a bunch of characters. So here are all the characters. In the case of Morse, it's in Oxford College, but here's a bunch of all the characters. They're going to be doing the things. Something happens, right? There is a murder or a robbery and a murder or whatever it is, right? Lewis and Morse go to the pub. Blah, 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 blah. And then, like, a few of the clues that they find along the way obviously lead to the denouement, where clearly the guest star of that week, which was normally like Nigel Havers or Richard Price or someone, they're clearly the killer because it's the guest star and that's what it is. But it's totally cozy, and I go back and watch them all the time. I watch them all the time. I have BritBox and I watch them all the time. I love that stuff. It's super cozy. But the thing that is missing to me as a big detective fan, because you're right, I could go back and watch any one of those things. I could get my 30-minute fix of sex crimes, and I could get my 2-hour fix of grumpy people in Oxford. But the thing that's missing, that when I start to think about like listing out in my head, there is a deficit of just really good detective thriller films. And that what you just described of like Ali Ermey and Ted Levine in a small town where, let's say every 5 years they do another one, right? There's sort of ones, like there's the fucking Jess Stone series with fucking Selleck. And they're
but they're just they're like TV movies, really,
right?
Aren't they?
And they're awful. But imagine like a
no, you're right, because sometimes I do find myself in the mood for that kind of movie, and I end up having to watch like Farewell My Lovely or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or whatever again. Like there's not that many,
right?
As you say, like good.
It's literally Shane Black. Then there's a handful of ones in the 70s. The Robert Altman one with Elliot Gould, The Long Goodbye.
Long Goodbye, yeah.
And there's another one. There's one called Homicide, a Mame one called called Homicide, which I watched recently with William H. Macy. There's like a few. And then you've got like the ones we were talking about, Silence of the Lambs and Seven, and I suppose you could throw stuff like Basic Instinct in there and things like some of those. Sea of Love, right? But like, I just wish there was 3 of those a year. Like if there were 3 of those a year.
I'd go along with that. I suppose because that is traditionally that fix that people get from those things. That might change, I guess, with more streaming. But the idea of, well, if you're going to do that, you can use the same characters, you can use the same sets, and you could churn out functionally. I mean, let's say your movie is an hour and a half, right? Then you're churning out 12 movies a year, like with Law and Order SVU. You know what I mean? Like 12 movies a year is what you're getting, basically. Yeah. And it's like, so you are getting them, you just like they're being parceled out in a different way. But I agree. The thing is that misses, which is what you do get with the English ones, is some idea of like, and I guess it's pacing too, right? Law and Order's like, we haven't got time. Come on, move on. Where's the next fucking suspect? Come on, we've got to get 5, or we're gonna have 1 suspect. But in Morse, like, there's like 3 people.
Yeah, 3 people it could be.
3 people and like, you know, a student, you know what I mean? A bit of a dodgy student. And it's less about like, because also the thing about Morse is you've got no idea who's done it. There's like, well, there's 8 of them. And they're all going, well, Inspector, I went to Eton, you know, in cricket. And they go like, all right, is that a motive? Because it's not like in Law and Order, they go, yeah, I came home from the factory where I work, but I've recently, you know, been laid off. So I've got a motive for killing. And they've all go, well, I've got a motive for killing, but I've also got a great alibi. And then at the end of the episode, you go, hey, he was lying about his alibi. Let's go arrest him at the end. Yeah. But in Morse, like, no fucking idea. And then it's like, and Morse doesn't even do anything. It just like irritate people into eventually like cracking, basically. That's all that happens. He hangs around until they murder somebody else and make a mistake. But it's never like draw the pieces together. It's just like who they really are and what they're doing is revealed. And that's what it's all about in English mysteries, I think, is the idea of we've all got this fucking hidden thing.
Yeah.
You know, this whole hidden life. And they're hidden, everybody's hidden. All Morse does is go around and like pull the blankets off like people's, like, he basically just looks under everyone's mattress, right? Like, porn, do you know what I mean? Kicks animals for fun and, murder. And then that's like the murder, beer in Oxford, right? That's what it is.
Yeah, but it's great. I love it.
Well, we're all Americans and we're all vicious and we're all kill each other to get by. But it wasn't me that day. But that's what they are, right? None of them are like, I'm a harmless old lady.
But I would.
Right? That's it. They're all bastards. They're all like, I'll slit your fucking throat. But on this particular day, that didn't suit me. I was busy. That's how they get away with an SVU. They're all bastards.
Yeah, they are all bastards.
They just decided not to be that.
But what's actually incredible is, with the SVU or the Law and Order phenomenon period, is the plots that, not that they throw them away on a 30-minute thing, but just like any one of those plots, given what you were talking about earlier, right? Given a writer who's willing to give it a bit of finesse, a bit of time, a bit of work, and a bit of whatever, could be stretched out to like a legitimately interesting and exciting movie length thing that could be put on a streaming service. Like with all the stuff that Netflix do, and look, as a fan of like sci-fi and horror and stuff, I'm very appreciative of the like genre shows that we end up getting. But I do wish one streaming service would be like, bollocks to this, we're doing a detective franchise. I really do. And I mean like a proper detective franchise.
That's one of the reasons why actually me and Teresa like Netflix as much as I do, as we do, because one of the things they do is they go and they find like peculiar detective dramas from peculiar countries. You go, we've got, like the last time we watched the one we're watching at the moment is from Finland, and it's basically nothing much more complicated than Law and Order. But because
is that the 12?
Finnish? No, it's called Dead Wind.
Oh.
Right? I know, right?
That just sounds like corpse farts.
No, and they're all wandering around like being like, we're in Finland and it's snowy and we're totally cool with that.
Yeah.
And then they're just like solving a murder, but in like this like snow swept like city, like wilderness city.
I was so disappointed with the second series. Talking about Dennis Quaid. The series set in Iceland with it turned out to be aliens.
I fucking hated that.
The first series was all right, but the second season with Quaid, I was like, Quaid hunting aliens in the Arctic. No, it was awful.
No, I'd love to. Yeah, and you're right. when it comes to Law and Order, you got like they start with a story that like what happens and the motives behind it and the characters involved, easy movie, no problem. And then they put that into a formula of like, and then you speak to like that Community episode where they do like basically an episode of Law and Order with all the beats in it.
Yeah.
But around I can't remember what the story is. It's the butt crack bandit. I can't remember. No, it's who knocked the cactus off. Anyway, but it's like perfectly done because it's like you speak to these people and like there's always like people like delivering fruit and they don't stop to talk to the cops. Like I'm too busy stacking these bottles to talk to like I know you're cops and everything, but I'm busy.
The guy who leads to the guy who leads to the guy. There's always
and it's fine and people like it because it's like I don't need. It's late. I'm tired. This is America. I'm expected to work until I die if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't have time to be like, you know, to have any like fucking examine my inner life, thanks. I just need like something that doesn't make me, you know, I just need something that's not going to surprise me too much, thanks. Can you do that?
Because I watched one the other night and especially after watching Switchback with the whole FBI and police thing, I wish I'd been watching this SVU episode with you, where it was a serial killer one. It turned out there were sex crimes along the way, but
incidentally, I'm here now committing crimes. I may as well have some sex crimes while I'm doing my other crimes.
But he was a serial killer called the Woodsman, right? Which I thought was kind of cool. And at the beginning of the episode, 2 bodies are found. One guy is dead and one woman is dead. And while they're investigating the crime, blah, 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 this FBI woman shows up. And the FBI woman is like investigating the crime with them. But the FBI woman seems like particularly like personally involved with the crime, right? And to cram this all into 32 minutes, it was incredible. And she had a mentor who had died, who was also like all about the Woodsman and trying to solve the Woodsman. But the mentor had died, not at the hands of the Woodsman, but had died of like a heart attack because of the stress and the madness or whatever. And she clearly had like this like thing with this mentor or whatever. And maybe it was sexual and maybe it wasn't, but it was kind of hinted at and maybe it wasn't. And this whole thing was going on all the way, all the time going on where they were like another hideous sex crime. Oh, they found this hideous sex thing. Oh, there's more horrible things, right? Well, because it turns out the Woodsman also liked to singe the flesh of the nipples and the genitals of the people he was torturing before he then killed them and left them in the woods, right? I would have thought that the Woodsman would have been the last thing you'd call him if 90% of what he did was torture and do really sick sex things.
Half the problem.
If all he does is then kill someone,
like the nipple singer, and then he'd be like, maybe I should stop doing that because he was like, look, he's going to kill people, that's fine, but torturing them is really unpleasant. So if we just call him the nipple singer, he will at least stop doing that, and maybe he'll just kill him and leave him in the woods.
But then they go through the usual thing, and they're like, well, we're clearly looking for a guy, and blah blah blah. Maybe we can solve this crime, even though the FBI are on it, and da 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 da. But then she seems very involved, and anyway, it turns out that the twist in the story is that
it's the mentor. He never had a heart attack, and it was him who's the Woodsman the whole time.
No. That the FBI woman, right, came across the Woodsman. Who had come back to the scene of one of his crimes because she'd been tracking him, came back to the scene of one of his crimes. She had killed him, and the dead body next to the woman's dead body at the beginning, the man's dead body, that was the Woodsman. But the FBI woman had shot the Woodsman, right? So she had shot the serial killer, and the woman the body that he had just laid was the woman next to her, right? So the 2 bodies they found at the beginning, one of them was actually the serial killer, right? And you'd be like, oh, okay, so she killed it, but then she had to cover it up because you can't just kill a serial killer. So she had to cover it up, right? They found out that she was covering it up, but then they found that since he had been killed, because he always had 2 or 3 victims on at the same time, that there was a victim in a storage warehouse in Jersey in like a big like meat locker thing, right, underneath the table, who was all like bound, gagged, and had her nipples burned, right? Singed. Who, because the FBI woman had killed the serial killer and not followed up on it, right? This woman who had been in this chest for 3 days then dies in the hospital, right? And the whole thing at the end was like the FBI woman was like, but I came to like help you solve the crime, to try and find where his locker was because I knew there would be another victim and I really wanted to help the woman. And she was like, but you didn't help the woman. What you ended up doing was you ended up hurting the woman who was in the locker, and then you killed a serial killer, which is murder. And it was this whole thing. And I'm like, how is this 32 minutes? And then at the end of it, the FBI woman blows her head off with a gun. She's just like, I can't live with what I've done. Blows her head off in front of Liv. And that's how it ended. And I'm like, that's 32 minutes of television, people. Wow.
No, I can't fault you on that. And you have to say, even when it is like exploitative tat.
Oh, it is.
Which is what it is. But nobody does. And this is the thing about
imagine stretching that out, though, to a 90-minute
better than Americans. Like,
right.
It's super professional.
But imagine stretching that out to 90 minutes even, because you've got all the basis of all the characters. You just have to have you just add a few more scenes where you get to know the FBI woman better, and you get to know that, I don't know, Liv likes
flashback sequences.
Right, Liv likes to eat cheddar sandwiches while playing chess with a squirrel or something. I mean, whatever. Give Liv some kind of backstory.
To be honest, mate, I would love it if your job was to add like pointless colour and background. You know what I mean? Like, what can we give this cop that's different? I think he plays chess and eats cheese with a squirrel. Yeah, that would be. That would be. You know what I mean? That's, and you'd get paid a fortune.
Yeah, I would.
Everyone would flock to your door and just go, "Can you give us something else weird for this cop to do?"
Well, you know, like one cop has a mother issue, another cop has a kid issue, and another cop.
Well, no, but these are all boring. Squirrels and cheeses.
Squirrels and cheeses.
Like, that's how it has to be. That's the way forward. If American television is to survive the pandemic, right, they have to embrace change. And I humbly submit that your brain is change.
I'm just saying, grab a few plots from SVU episodes, string them out to 90 minutes, change the names of the characters because they're all interchangeable people anyway, and Bob's your uncle. You've got... Because all detective movies are the same. Like, it's not like you watch a detective movie and at the end of it, you're like, oh my God. Like, Switchback attempted to do that. Switchback attempted to be like, it's not him, it's not him, it can't be him. Oh, it is him. You knew it was him all along, but it can't be him. Oh, but it is him. It attempted to do that, right? Something different. Balls to trying to do something different. Just get the same old formula, but cast it really well. Like, imagine if it was Arlie Ermey and Ted Levine hunting the woodsman, and then the female FBI agent comes in.
That is, you've put your finger on the thing that saddens me most about Brian Dennehy, is that nobody ever did that for Brian Dennehy.
Right.
Like, Brian Dennehy should have had a franchise as a bumbling, the fat detective, basically, like the fat, grumpy detective.
Yeah.
I would have watched so many movies.
Grampton PD.
Be like, stick him, like, it's got to be picturesque, right? So it's got to be like a New Mexico desert or Colorado mountains or something. But just stick Denny in a picturesque location, have him solve a crime. That's it. And I would have watched so many, and no one ever did that.
No one ever did that.
It's a crime against Dennehy's potential.
Also, I wouldn't even change his name. Like, I was just thinking, like, I was going through all the kind of names you could call it, like they used to have in the 70s, where like your man from George Peppard played like Banachek or whatever. Like, I was trying to think of a name like that. I don't even think you need another name. Just Dennehy, PI. Like
Dennehy. Like the police captain.
The police captain would just have to be like, get me
here, Dennehy.
Get me Dennehy. And he just comes in and he's like, what the fuck do you want, bada bing?
I'm retired. I was fishing.
I
was playing chess with squirrels.
Yeah. I'm a private investigator now. I don't have any time for your policeman.
Yeah, Brian Dennehy is like an over-the-hill ex-cop thrown out the force for being fat and playing chess with squirrels and weirding everybody out. And then he becomes a private detective in, I don't know, like some really picturesque fucking location.
Where the sheriff is Arlie Ermey and his deputy is Ted Levine, and the three of them together, while getting into a lot of arguments, end up solving crimes and learning true things about themselves.
I would very much like to see that, and it is the thing that bothers me most about Dennehy, who I understand is a fantastic actor. I just feel like he was born to be that character, and I never saw that movie.
Well, I would have cast him as, I've always had this character in the back of my head, which is kind of like part Columbo, part Sherlock Holmes, called the shambling detective, because essentially it's just a detective that shambles a lot and wears a lot of grubby overcoats.
Oh, thanks, Michael. That would work fine. But I'm not wrong, right? There isn't like some movie out there that I'm not thinking of where Dennehy is a...
I think there's movies, but I don't think there's...
No, a movie where Brian Dennehy is the lead and he's a tough, grumpy cop solving a crime. I can't be. Like,
Oh
I'm
no!
not...
Wait! There was a Jack Reed series, but they were directed by Brian Dennehy. But I don't know if he was in them. Was Dennehy? He was Jack Reed. That's the series. Jack Reed, Badge of Honor, made for television, crime drama film. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them.
Fuck off! Really?
There are 6 of them. Well, the first one's called Deadly Matrimony, and the second one's
playing? What's he playing? Who is he?
Jack Reed. He plays Jack Reed.
But who is Jack Reed? He's a sheriff. He's a.
I don't know, dude. I literally just googled it. I googled Brian Dennehy detective series, and it came up with Jack Reed.
But I want to see. I have to see this now. I've been under the impression that it never existed, and here it is.
Here it is. Jack Dennehy. Jack Dennehy.
Of Honor.
I'm looking it up now. The trouble is it won't be listed as a TV series. It'll be listed. Jack Reed, one of our own. He was in a bunch of them.
Here we go. American made-for-television crime drama.
Jack Reed, Badge of Honor. Jack Reed, A Search for Justice. Jack Reed, One of Our Own. Jack Reed, A Killer Amongst Us. Oh, yeah, I gotta watch these.
Sergeant Jack Reed. Oh, wow.
Sergeant John Reed in Deadly Matrimony, which is also known as Shattered Promises. So it has multiple...
A series of popular made-for-TV crime dramas fictionalizing the career of real-life Cook County Sheriff's homicide investigator, Jack Reed.
The first one has Treat Williams, Embeth Davidson, and Xander Berkeley in it. And Robert Picardo.
Oh, all the films were loosely based on cases Reed had investigated during his police career.
Okay, I need to watch all of them.
I need to watch all of these. Where are they?
I don't know. Let's just have a... it says available on Amazon, but I think it probably means by DVD or whatever. No, it's VHS tape. Oh, shit. It's going to be one of those things you just can't find.
It can't be.
It's going to be one of those things. I'm going to look it up. Yeah, Jack Reed series. Streaming, even if it was on Tubi, like that sounds to me like prime Tubi.
Yeah.
Jack Reed, One of Our Own, is on Amazon Prime.
Is it?
Yeah. Jack Reed, Search for Justice is on Prime. I just think the first one is not. Oh my God, Dennehy's mustache in Jack Reed, Search for Justice. Looks amazing.
He's got no mustache in One of Our Own.
Yeah.
Jack Reed and his wife take a young woman to their household. But when it turns out she's targeting unknown assassins, it's got Charles S. Dutton in One of Our Own.
Oh, dude, we've got to get into one of these. This is it for the next few weeks. We'll just watch Jack Reed movies.
Oh, should we?
Yes.
I'd be very happy with that.
Yes,
if you want to do that.
Just watch. I just want to watch Dennehy.
Yeah, me too.
Being Jack Reed.
Okay, so we've got to take them in order. So what have we got available on Amazon?
Well, what we can watch right now is we can watch A Search for Justice, Death and Vengeance, One of Our Own, Under the Influences. Undue Influence is not a Jack Reed, right? That's a different thing.
I don't know. Hang on 1 second. Jack Reed, Brian Dennehy.
I think we've only got 3, dude. I think we've got One of Our Own, Death and Vengeance, and then A Search for Justice, Jack Reed's mustache.
So, yeah, Jack Reed, Death and Vengeance.
Miguel Ferrer is in A Search for Justice. I love Miguel Ferrer.
One of Our Own. So 95 is One of Our Own. Search for Justice is 94. So it's Search for Justice, then One of Our Own.
Yeah.
Then
Death and Vengeance.
Okay. So we'll start with Jack Reed, A Search for Justice then?
Yeah, definitely.
I love Miguel. Miguel Ferrer is my favorite thing in Twin Peaks.
I just hope it's not like. I hope we don't watch it and we're just like, that's a shame.
So Charles S. Dutton must be a regular character.
What is The Last of the Finest? The Last of the Finest. This is another Dennehy, but this is not a Jack Reed one. But it's an old-fashioned, dedicated cop who takes a small undercover squad into a major narcotics ring, is left out to dry by his peers. After he's kicked off the force, he decides to take justice into his own hands and brings down the narcotics ring and the government officials involved. That's
okay. You're right. So why don't we do like a Jack Reed month then? So we'll do the 3 of them back to back.
I love it. We'll do that.
We'll see if we can find. So hang on. Just not to be like super boring about this, but hang on.
No, I will find more of them. You know I will
Yeah,
find
I was
more.
just going to say. No, I was just going to say. So if we, here we go, Jack Reed series. So what do we have? We had 94, 95, 96, right?
Deadly Matrimony was the first one in 92.
So
that was the first one.
So it goes Deadly Matrimony, right? Then it's Badge of Honor, Search for Justice, One of Our Own. So then it's A Killer Among Us, and what have we got? We've got Badge for Justice.
We've got Badge of Honor. I think we've got the middle three, right?
No, I think we've got
We've got Search for Justice, One of Our Own, and A Killer Amongst Us, haven't we? Or no?
No, Death and Vengeance.
Oh, so we're missing A Killer Among Us.
We're missing A Killer Among Us, Badge of Honor, and Deadly Matrimony.
Yeah. There it is, though.
That's really something.
Right? I knew he must have done. He must have done. It just feels terrible.
No, you were right. You were totally right. I'm sorry I doubted Dennehy. Can't believe I was a Dennehy doubter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it might not turn out to be the classic that we're hoping. Like, we might watch the first one and be like, eh.
No, I'm sure it'll be incredibly cliche, right?
Yeah. I mean, but to be honest, I would probably watch anything that Dennehy was in.
Yeah.
Except maybe Lanigan's Rabbi, which I probably in which he plays a character called Burton Tree.
All they've got is a VHS tape, an English VHS tape.
I'll find it. I'll do some digging around. I'll find some stuff, and if I don't, we'll just start with the one we have on Amazon.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm sure we'll get caught up. He didn't really start, like, in terms of movies, he didn't really start, like, any big ones until Silverado and Cocoon, really. Those two back-to-back in the mid-'80s were really where Dennehy took off. Like, yes, he does 10 years of, like, being in TV stuff, but he doesn't really do, like, a movie that was a big deal. I mean, he's in 10, but I don't think as a main part. But his two... Oh, First Blood, sorry.
The Sheriff.
First Blood in 82, but then he doesn't do another big one until Cocoon and Silverado back to back in 85, and then FX.
He's a theater guy, right?
And then FX in 86. Yeah, he was a serial guy. He was a theater guy later on because he did Death of a Salesman, right? That was his big.
Yeah, and he did and The Iceman Cometh as well, I think.
Right. Yeah, he did those old chestnuts.
Yeah, those are obsessed. But listen, I'm happy doing it because I think it'll be cozy, cliche nonsense and probably quite fun to talk about. And if we do one of them and we liked watching it, but it wasn't much fun to talk about, then we can just watch it like ourselves. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to say, I don't think there's anything else. I mean, he's done other movies where he's played like detectives and cops and stuff, but I don't think he's done another series.
I think it's okay to make like. We could do like a Deadly Dennehy. No, because it's Sleazy Spade of Springtime, so we'd have to. I don't know how you.
Dude, I don't even think we overthink it. I just think we watch a few Jack Reed movies and see what we like. We discover them together. Let's watch them together. Yeah. And like I say, I have no, like I don't need to plan any major thing. I like the idea of. While we're on lockdown, we go wherever the wind blows us. I'm all
in favour of that.
It doesn't need to be.
Teresa would be like, so what are you doing tonight? I go, I'm sorry, I have to watch a Brian Dennehy movie for work.
Yeah.
I mean, this is work.
It is. Well, it's work. But it was, I think the fact that out of Switchback came the discovery of a Brian Dennehy true crime series.
If nothing else, Switchback gave us Jack Reed. And I'm only disappointed that it's not just Dennehy PI, because that would have been amazing. It's set in a smoky Arizona town. But I will take Jack Reed's hardened Chicago cop. And especially if they're like based on real cases of some real guy. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as it's not like, because it's based on real cases, a lot of it is him just sitting around drinking coffee and swearing at people. As long as like...
Really? Because that sounds kind of cool.
No, as long as stuff like blows up and he runs around and he does the Dennehy shuffle, which is that kind of... Him, in fact, weirdly enough, him and John Thor in Morse, they have similar gaits in the way they run. They have that like kind of lolloping gait.
That's true. It's probably to do with the beer, all the beer they carry around.
Oh, well, John Thor has a foot thing, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he does, yeah.
Well, he did,
which is why he had that very distinctive run in the Sweeney, which by the time when he was in Morse, the few occasions that Morse was called upon to run was always a pleasure. There's nothing quite like the lolloping gait of John Thor.
There is not. It's got me in the mood for watching that now.
Yeah. Well, I not only are they all on BritBox, and I think a few available through Amazon, like with a free add-on, I think. But also I have the old box set right behind me. So
very nice. Very nice.
If I ever want to pull it out and shake it all about, I can. And weirdly enough, on the last point on Morse, and I know you weren't a big fan of like the Lewis spin-off and other stuff.
No, I like Lewis.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. There
was an episode, and I think it was in the first season or maybe early in the second season of Endeavour. And I agree with you. I agree with you. The guy who plays Endeavour is just insufferable.
He's like Cumberbatch light. He's like if Cumberbatch was a squirrel.
Yeah, he's like Burlington Coat Factory. He's like Dennis Quaid is to Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
but only to Benedict Cumberbatch. But in Endeavour, there was an episode of Endeavour that was the most beautifully filmed 2 hours of television I've ever witnessed, ever. It was so... The cinematography on it was absolutely second to none. I can't remember what happened in it, and I know that he was insufferable. But the cinematography, I was blown away.
Did a vicar fall into a river?
I think that was the Vicar River conundrum.
That's what it was called, the Vicar River conundrum. Episode 3, the Vicar River conundrum.
I like the way that Vicar came first.
Why is that vicar in the river? It's a conundrum anyway. We don't know. We better call the coppers to find out why that vicar is in that river.
I have to say, one of the weirdest things, because I watched, like one time when I was sick with a sore throat, I watched like 4 seasons of Endeavour back to back in one of those just lie on the couch and put it on kind of things. And I know
that with The Mentalist.
Yeah, I used to do that with the I haven't done that with The Mentalist in a long time. But the thing and Castle as well. I used to do it with Castle as well. But the thing with Endeavour was at a certain point, obviously as it goes through the 60s, he has to deal with being this kind of like straight-laced, working class, down on his heel copper. He has to deal with like the burgeoning sexual awakening of the students at Oxford College and the feminism and all the rest of it that happens at the end of the 60s, right? And while you think that would be ripe, absolutely ripe for, I don't know, conflict or interesting discussions or thought processes or like complex analyzing of human movements and all the rest of it, it wasn't. And it was sort of like, you know when like the BBC tries...
we were doing drugs and then one of us was dead.
Yeah.
Well, I better investigate that. Oh, yeah. Actually, I did some drugs. Oh, dear.
You know when the Brits try and be edgy, like in that, like, and now here's the Downton Abbey episode where they all hushly talk about the prince's abortion or something. You know what I mean? Like it's... I don't know why the prince would have an abortion, but you know what I mean.
There's a lot going on there that needs to be flashed up. You know what I mean?
But it was like that. It was like
to unpack that.
And here's the Endeavour episode where someone drops acid and you might see something of a nipple. You know, like.
Oh no! I smoked a cigarette too fast, and now I can see the stars.
Yeah. Morse is like, I don't need acid. I've got opera and real beer. Grumpiness. And they're like, no, but you don't understand acid. And we're like, didn't we do this already with the episode where someone takes E and dies at a rave?
You know what? That's one trope I don't miss is is like procedural television shows in the 90s trying to get to grips with raves.
With raves and happy hardcore stuff.
And raves are a thing. We better put raves in movies. How are we going to do that? It just looks dark.
Yeah.
Dark, and the camera gets all.
Well, because there was only ever one way. There was only ever one thing that ever encapsulated
club culture.
Yeah,
yeah, that happens. Yeah.
Well, there was only ever
into the rave and they never come out again.
Oh no, he's been consumed by club culture.
He's doing heroin and he's hooking on the green or whatever. And so I think it's just a prodigy. It's fine.
He's wearing a bright green tank top and he's spiked his hair a little edgy. What are we going to do?
We always get like sucked in. It's like, they go to raves now, you know. They do that before you know it, they're dead. They're going to come out with a needle sticking out their eye. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think
mostly, as all dancing has been since the beginning of time,
it's mostly awful.
Trying to get laid with birds and failing miserably. Yeah, that's what raves are. It's just much noisier. Listen, I think I'd better wrap it up. Actually, it was great. I know it was a bit of a roller coaster there in the middle, for which I apologise. Good luck with the editing of that one.
We figured it out.
My advice would be, definitely edit that bit out. But when we came back to it. But there's a point when it just starts getting a bit personal and we're just like talking and not being entertaining. I wouldn't even worry about like ending it. Just like slowly fade it out. You know what I mean? I think that'd be a nice way to finish it.